Welcome to our last section of the course. This is going to be using Ajax and JSON within jQuery. This section is going to cover an introduction to Ajax, also how you can load content into your HTML using jQuery, retrieving JSON data and working with JSON data, using the Ajax methods that are available in jQuery, making it really easy to connect to online data, jQuery utilities that are really super useful, and also completion of the project that we've been working on throughout the earlier lessons. All this and a whole lot more coming up in this section. This lesson, we're going to be introducing you to Ajax, how it works, what it does, Ajax and JSON working together, also looking at a few resources online like MyJSON, so this is a place to store JSON data online, and JSON lint, how we can lint out our JSON data in order to prepare it to retrieve it back from Ajax requests, as well as what the difference is between JavaScript objects and JSON. So Ajax is actually not a programming language. It's actually a group of technologies working together in order to make a request using code. And typically, when it's in a browser, it's JavaScript code in order to make a connection, request some data from your server, and then retrieve that data and have something happen with that data all in the background. So the user would come in with the browser, and we make our Ajax request to the server. The server processes the request and issues a response, and then the browser receives the response, processes it, and updates something within the web page within the DOM. And this is where jQuery is perfect for this type of functionality because, again, we're interacting with the DOM, and having the ability to send Ajax requests really easily is a real plus to using jQuery. So JavaScript is used to send the request. So that would be JavaScript via using the jQuery library. And then we receive that information in the background. And then, of course, no page reload with Ajax requests. And it all happens in the background. And then we also modify some content. So typically, the user would be using the web browser, and the web browser would make a request to the server. The server does whatever it needs to do with the data and then issues back a response to the web browser, and the web browser builds out the web page. In this case, what happens now is Ajax runs within the web browser, so it's using JavaScript. So the user comes in, they've got their user interface, and then they've got JavaScript running in the background where we make the Ajax request within the programming, and then we can connect to the server. Ajax was originally based around XML, but now JSON is the more common format for using data online. So that's what actually gets returned for most servers. And a quick overview on what JSON is. So JSON is essentially looks exactly the same as a JavaScript object. There are some differences because this is a data object. So it's based around having the JavaScript format where we've got the name, the key name value pairs. So we've got the key or the name, and then we've got the value associated with it. And that's how we return back these values being associated with the name. We also have objects that we can add in. So these are comma separated, and we can have multiple values there, multiple keys with multiple values being returned back. And we can use any data type. So we can use strings, we can use numbers, we can use objects as well. We can use arrays. So there's a lot of options and Boolean values as well. And we can see in a good example here of all the different values, and we see also how easy it is to read JSON, where we've got the first name, last name clearly indicated within the JSON code. And then we use our JavaScript to retrieve back those values associated with the names. So there are some tools that I want to quickly review. So one of the tools is MyJSon. So this is one that I commonly use to store JSON data. And the other difference between JSON data and JavaScript objects is that we don't need to quote around our names, whereas with JSON we do, otherwise it's going to fail. And we also can't have methods, so we can't have a function here and run some type of code. And also the other rule is that it needs to be double quotes, so no single quotes. So we can really easily create a JSON bin using the MyJSon. And what it does is it creates a URL here, and then you can use Ajax to connect to this URL and retrieve that JSON data. So I've got one here that I've created earlier, and this is the same one that we're using within the project. So it's got a bin number, and anytime I want to access this data, and we can also go to the URL and it outputs it within a string format. So this is useful to make sure that you do have your proper format within a JSON format. So usually I'll use this tool just to ensure my data is properly formatted in JSON. And you can see that it comes back that it's valid JSON. So in case I don't have valid JSON, so if I do something like projects, and if I try to do it within a JavaScript object, and I try to validate this, it's going to fail. So even when I wrap it with the curly brackets, validate is going to fail. And it's until I get the double quotes there, then that's when I can return back a valid JSON object. So it is important to get familiar, and you can't just simply copy and paste your JavaScript objects and have them work all the time. Notice I changed it to single quotes, and that's not going to work either. So it's got to be double quotes, and it's got to be with the brackets around it, the curly brackets around it, because it's an object format, and then it's got to have these name pair values.